I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman. I'm now the Wellness Director at Lutheran Health Network. You know, I was a neurosurgeon for 44 years. I just retired from that. But I appreciate joining our show. We run these programs, frankly, once a week. It's about wellness and prevention. Today's subject is very interesting because it's a very common problem, and this is mainly my opinion, which I'm representing here, is how to prevent, stop, reverse vascular disease. Very interesting because it's very common, and we have in our body about 60,000 miles, 60,000 miles of blood vessels. But if you get even smaller, you know, to the capillaries, we have 300,000 miles of capillaries in our body. So well, we have a pretty good long subject here. And our heart, you know, that little 3-pound fist-size organ that is sitting in your chest, has about 4 chambers in it. We're totally dependent on it. If it's not pumping any blood, you know, we're not alive. The most common presentation, say, of a heart attack, 50% of the people die on the first attack. A lot of times it is totally unannounced, but the majority of which, if they make it to the emergency room, we can do pretty good for them because we have excellent cardiologists in the city and at Lutheran Hospital. They specialize in it, and they are really doing quite well with it. But again, we like to teach you how to prevent it, stop it, and reverse vascular disease. Many famous books have been written in the past. Dean Ornish wrote them, you know, 25, 30 years ago, that heart disease is stoppable, preventable, reversible. Very famous books. Dr. Esselstyn, whose book I have here in front of me, very good book to read. He also wrote about it. And we'll discuss these things today, the best modern medical treatment at this time, but also how to stop, prevent, reverse blood vessel disease. It's not just about heart attacks, it's also about strokes. We talk about the blood vessels throughout the body, your 300,000 miles of capillaries, your 60,000 miles of arterioles. And what is the cause of this condition? And the good news is, I have some good news with you, that this disease can largely be prevented in your life, and we'll speak about proper eating and exercise and the cause of this all. In essence, when you have vascular disease, 90% of the time it's silent. You don't even know what's going on. You have no symptoms. But as far as I'm concerned, your body is on fire. You have inflammation. Inflammation is the biggest cause of vascular disease. Yeah, and what causes inflammation? The Women's Health Study done, about 28,000 people were done, and they found if you have an elevated C-reactive protein, CRP, this is a chemical in the blood that tells you inflammation is going on. It should be under 1 or so. But many patients that I ran these tests on, I'd see there were 5, 6, 7, 8. That tells you about a hidden, many times, inflammatory condition. Gives us a chance to investigate it and turn things around for you. So vascular disease is largely inflammatory disease. And what's interesting is, you know, we thought fat is the problem. Well, the 30 years of Ansel Keys saying that fat was a cause of vascular disease, frankly, that theory is being destroyed, and is being destroyed by new medical information, things we've learned since that time. We all thought, you know, cholesterol was the problem, but then some of these, like the Framingham Heart Study, indicated half the people that died from with heart attacks, we probably have 1.5 million heart attacks a year, and maybe 400,000, 500,000 of those end up dying. The rest we can save. We had a normal cholesterol. So the cholesterol theory is although very low density LDL, the very low density LDL is still thought to be the cause of the inflammation, but the majority of cholesterol in our body is not the cause of it. We'll go into some more detail about that. Actually, a Dr. Sinatra, Stephen Sinatra, wrote a good book, he called it The Great Cholesterol Myth. I think it's really worth reading. I think it's really worth reading. Explains this in detail, and I'll tell you quite a bit about it. I mean, how does plaque develop? Plaque is the accumulation of cholesterol and chemical materials and reaction of the inflammation in your arteries, in your blood vessels. And how does this develop? What is the main theory at this time is, frankly, is related to sugar. Yeah, sugar. It's not fat that's the majority energy here, or cholesterol. It's sugar. Yeah. Let's take table sugar. This is really critical that you understand this. Sugar is 50% glucose, okay? What's the other 50%? I just finished my 6th lecture a little while ago. Another person in the audience knew what the other half was, so it's not their fault. I think it's teaching at the medical school level that is missing, because I asked a senior medical student that the other day. They didn't know the answer. The other 50% is fructose. Yeah, the same sugar as in fruit. And I was disappointed. I didn't always know it either. But all these great books I'm reading, Sugar Fix, for example, by Richard Johnson, great book to read. Explains in detail. Richard Lustig, Fat Chance, describes it also in detail. Well, the problem is glucose goes in the bloodstream, okay, raises your insulin level, and the sugar level goes up. 20% goes to the liver, 20% to the brain, and the other 60% ends up as glycogen in the muscles, and we use it up as energy. Now, if you ate too much glucose, certainly it would be converted to fat in the liver. Eventually, you could get fat from that, but the majority is used up, okay? Now, fructose, okay, goes to the bloodstream, doesn't raise your insulin level, which normally should rise with a regular sugar, goes to the liver, eats up your energy molecule, ATP, eats up ATP, and is converted to very low density LDL, okay? Very low density LDL. And that hits the bloodstream, and wherever there is some little injury to an artery, wherever the branching occurs in blood vessels, all that blood pressure hitting those areas of branching, there's always a little injury there in a lot of your vessels throughout your body. Let's not say always, but that's in little cracks in your covering of the inside of your blood vessel. Okay, your blood vessel on the outside is fibers, then it has muscles, and then there's a one cell layer coating of the inside of your artery, of the tube, okay? That's called the endothelium, okay? And it is there, even when there's little cracks in it, that your very low density LDL, very small, we're talking about nanoparticles, okay, will go inside these cracks and crevices, and that is the start of vascular disease. Your body sees that, and the Army, Navy, Air Force of Immunity and the Marines come out and want to get rid of that. So they inflame the area, just like a cut in the skin. It becomes inflamed. And that's the inflammation that I'm talking about. That's the start of vascular disease. And then on top of the inflammatory response can cause fibrous changes, plaque formation, eventually foam cells. And then your body is supposed to put some collagen above that to seal it off, and narrows the vessel. Now, if that covering ruptures, for example, from high blood pressure, from too much inflammation, then the body will come in and put in a blood clot and closes the vessel up altogether, and that's when heart attacks occur or strokes occur. So that's sort of the physiology of the plaque. And the body reacts to this information by oxidation and through formation of free radicals. If you take a molecule and you lose an electron, that's called a free radical. That free radical's looking for a place to put itself, and it'll attach another molecule, and that's called oxidation. It's almost like cooking something. It's a Maillard reaction, the Maillard reaction. And that is how a plaque progresses. So it's the inflammatory thing. So what caused all this? The cholesterol? The majority of the cholesterol? No. It's the very low density LDL that did it. And the majority of the cholesterol is much larger and is floating in your bloodstream, and it goes to your cells. Every cell in your body, your 70 trillion cells, has in it some cholesterol and fat in its coverings. Yeah, every single cell. Our brain is 50% fat, 20% cholesterol. So cholesterol is not the enemy that we thought that it was, except for the very, very low density, which is not caused by fat. It's sugar. Now, glucose is C6H12O6. Fructose is C6H12O6. They're twins, except that they're mirror images of each other, so the body recognizes them differently, so they're twins. But let's face it, the fructose is a lot more evil than the glucose. So I just finished the book that'll be on Amazon probably within a month. Fructose, the evil twin. You got to admit, pretty good title. It is the evil twin, the fructose. So it's not the cholesterol. It's not the fat that's causing the majority of this problem. It's the fructose. It's the sugar is the enemy of vascular disease. So you got to learn what the sugar content of the foods that you're eating and the fructose contents. If you read the book by Richard Johnson called Sugar Fix, in the back there's 20 pages tell you the fructose contents of food. Carrot cake, for example, 50 grams of fructose. There's some fructose in every food we eat, but a very small amount. So you have to learn the content, so you don't eat more than 35 grams a day. So it's very important. So as your endothelium, which is the inside of that blood vessel we spoke about, goes, but so do you. So do you. So many people are walking around with advanced vascular disease. They just don't know it. And we'll tell you how to diagnose it fairly soon. When does heart disease begin? You wonder. Dr. Atwood, pediatrician, wrote a famous book. He was part of the Bogalusa study in Louisiana, where they studied children for 40 years. And the ones that died from one reason or another, accidents, they did autopsies and they studied them. You know what they discovered? Heart disease begins at age 2. Yes, you wouldn't believe it. I asked a college student that recently when I gave a talk at a university, and I don't blame him. I was just trying to emphasize the point. I want you to remember it. Vascular disease doesn't start 2 years before you have a heart attack. It starts at age 2, very young. Even about a third of the teenagers today have streaks of fatty streaks in the blood vessels, the beginning of vascular disease. So when you have a heart attack at age 40, the disease began a long time ago. And that's the reason we'll be speaking more about prevention. And so there's other things that more likely result in vascular disease, dental disease, because of inflammation occurring in your gums. Can send bacteria to your heart, cause valvular disease. It can inflame the plaques. So they have found that people who have a lot of dental disease have a higher incidence of vascular disease. Good thing to remember, dental health is important. Other things that increase the rate of inflammation is smoking. Smoking inflames the arteries throughout the body, from the brain to the toes. Smokers have a high rate of vascular disease. And of course, diet has a great effect. We spoke about the fructose contents. Also, if you eat meat, for example, that's from a CAFO, a concentrated animal feeding organization farm, which 90% of all steaks are from, They're fed a lot of omega-6 type food, inflammatory fats to make them fat. The fatter they are, the more they can charge you, and then you eat them. They give them pesticides, herbicides, and hormones versus an organically raised beef, which is much healthier, is full of omega-3, the good fat. The bad fat is omega-6. And what does omega-6 cause in your body? Inflammation. Inflammation is a cause of vascular disease. So it's not just sugar, it's bad fats cause it too. But for most of us, it's a plague of sugar that's killing us. The same with fish. Fish raised in a pond, they're giving carbon products, they're giving genetically altered corn and wheat to fatten them up so that you eat them. So you always must ask in the restaurant, is this fish from a pond or from the ocean? The ocean fish is much healthier because they've been eating sardines and herring and plankton, a plant full of omega-3. So that's anti-inflammatory. So you must know where your meat or your fish came from. Ask the waiter. Some of the best restaurants I know in town here, their meats and fish are from a pond or off a CAFO farm, and instead of organically raised. You have to speak to them and point this out, because then they may change. And when we have, how do you diagnose vascular disease? Even at a young age, it's tricky. Throughout my 44 years, even in neurosurgery, I saw a significant number of vascular problems, certainly as strokes, but also as heart attacks. The person can be very young. Angina is what we use to describe people having chest pain as indicative of maybe having a vascular disease. 75% of pain in the chest zone in any person is atypical. Nothing to do with vascular disease. So you have to be careful in the diagnosis, but you can't ignore it. Can't ignore it. You get symptoms, for example, down the sternum, down the arm, in the jaw. In a woman, let me tell you something. In a woman, any pain, it's different in men and women, but between the umbilicus and her ears, any woman, right or left, can be angina. Can be angina. So we have to be careful in the diagnosis, and may need to go to the emergency room, because it can be too late. You can be young. You can be 30, 25 years old. I've seen it. I saw a patient, I remember years ago, maybe she was 28, something like that, come to see me with arm pain, typical of ruptured disc of the neck. Also had some neck pain. You know what it turned out to be? Heart disease. Turned out to be heart disease. There was a clue, though. She was a bit overweight, which gives you a hint that she maybe has inflammation in the body. I mean, that can be indicative of inflammation if you're overweight, because you could be pre-diabetic, early diabetic. You just never know. Let's go through. So it can be arm pain, neck pain, jaw pain, chest pain, back pain. Sometimes it's back pain. Sometimes it's abdominal pain. Yes, abdominal upset can be an indication of a vascular problem. Certainly if you're having a stroke, things get a little more obvious. Loss of speech, double vision, severe dizziness, numbness or paralysis of any extremity. It could be arm and leg. Certainly if it's arm and leg, that would indicate, can be transient. You might just have it. Suddenly can't talk, can't move the right arm, right leg. That's called a TIA, transient ischemic attack. And you could have narrowing of the arteries, and it needs to be worked up pretty quickly. And we'll tell you about the blood tests and other diagnostic tests that you need. And so let's speak a little bit here about the 5 stages of vascular disease. First of all, remember I told you that you're more likely to have vascular disease where things branch, because the blood is constantly hitting this angle here, producing a little bit of injury at what's called bifurcation, the branching, and more likely to get inflammation there. So if you put a stethoscope on here, you're much more likely to hear noise. That's called a bruit, and indicating there's some vascular disease going on. Also, in the stages of it, first I already described to you the very low density LDL, inflammatory process. Then the body sends the macrophages, your Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, that attack the injury, and they form foam cells, inflammatory response. Next is what we call oxidative processes and free radicals, cytokines, which are much more common in fat, for example, interleukins. These are all chemicals that come in and cause this change. You don't need to remember these, but I just want you to know that you heard them. And then some collagen and elastin is brought in to form a cap over there, and things may be fine. You know, it's nice and smooth now, and nothing's going to happen to you like emboli thrown from this plaque you have to the brain to cause a stroke, as long as the cap is intact. So that's the stage. For example, you could eat better, exercise more, and turn the whole thing around, for example. But as soon as some leakage occurs, and emboli could occur, cause a transient ischemic attack, could be signs of a stroke, a clot forms, the body reacts, blood starts clotting, fibrinogen level is up, and a heart attack could occur. And so if you have those symptoms I spoke about, to the emergency room you go. We have very modern, great cardiologists to take care of that, from running diagnostic tests to angioplasties, and occasionally you need an operation. So we have absolute experts available for that. And other things can occur. You get an irregular heart rate, and the heart can kind of quiver. You may still be okay, but a clot could form in the heart, and that can be thrown to the brain to cause a stroke. So severe irregular heart rate, you got to let your doctor know right away. I think that's important. But how can we? So the focus needs to be on the endothelium, the inside of the blood vessels. That's where we were going to catch it very early. And like I said, the nation has had a cholesterol obsession. We're all concerned about being on these medication to get the cholesterol down, when in reality we should be focusing on the very low density L, your blood sugar, your CRP, your inflammatory factors. But we need to, your liver makes about 800 milligrams of cholesterol. We can also take it in from food. If you take it in from food, from fatty meats, for example, plants don't make cholesterol. Take it in from fatty plants, for example, the liver will stop making it. So there's a balance there. As your cholesterol enters the bloodstream, it's not water soluble, so protein it encapsulates itself in protein, and then forms some compounds. One is called HDL. That's your high density cholesterol, which is the good one. That's the one that goes through your vessels and cleans things out, brings it back to the liver and the gallbladder, and it excretes them. So your HDL is a level that you want to be high. In women, it's naturally a little bit higher. In men, a little bit lower. So a good HDL would be for a woman over 40. A man should at least have it over 35. Like 80 or 100, that's a very good sign that this is going around cleaning your arteries out. Then we have the LDL, which is not just LDL now. We have the big one that floats around. Dr. Oz on the show demonstrated beautifully with some balloons. The very small balloon, the medium balloon, and the big balloon. We're not worried about the big LDL. We are concerned about the very small LDL, because it was the start of arteriosclerosis. Another one they worry about today is lipoprotein A. Lipoprotein A is another chemical compound found in the blood. You can test for that. It patches up arteries just like HDL does, restores them, but also it promotes proliferation of the musculature of the blood vessel, and that can get out of hand. I mean, you could get a fibrous reaction throughout the body, and the vessels, because of that, start closing up. So you don't want too high a lipoprotein A, but not too low either, because it has some good qualities. When you, the Framingham Heart Study really studied these patients in Massachusetts, and some of the conclusions, were good, but they found a number of people with a heart attack, they had normal cholesterols, they really proved. And then Ansel Keys from Minnesota, a nutritionist, is attached to the Mediterranean diet about that time. He ran studies on 20 countries of the fat content and diseases it produced. But he studied 20 countries, but he presented statistics on only 7. Yeah, that was an error. And then 7 countries, he tried to convince us that fat was the cause of heart disease, and the American Heart Association in 1956 announced that fat was the cause of vascular disease. Turns out that was not correct. And the Ansel Keys theory is sort of leaving right now in the process of being buried. Actually, before that, it was suggested by Dr. Cleve, Dr. Cleve and Dr. Judkin, around 50s and 60s, 1960s, they published books, both of them published books. They call it a saccharine disease, pure, white, and deadly, and suggesting sugar was the problem. But they were not as good at public speakers and everything, and their theory was kind of buried. But it was Dr. Cleve and Judkin, both from England. Very nice books. Dr. Robert Lustig, Lustig, republished the book of recently on pure, white, and deadly, when he also realized now these guys are right. They were right. They just got buried by the fat theory for 30 years, but now sugar we realize it's a sugar disease and mainly a fructose disease. And the fat, there was a Dr. Bang from Sweden who studied the Eskimos who were eating a 60% fat diet. They were eating blubber from whales, but they never got vascular disease. But they did a spectrography on their fats, and then it was confirmed by Dr. Harmon in Minnesota, a nutritionist, that this was the omega-3 essential fatty acid, the good fat, and that's the reason they were healthy. They were not eating many sugar products. They were eating an awful lot of fat, so that helped prove the theory too. And they found the cholesterol level, for example, in Crete, the Mediterranean type diet, they ate their cholesterols were bigger than 200, but they were very healthy. They studied them in France, and they're eating a lot of cheese, and their cholesterols were over 200, yet they were healthy. Then we already spoke about the Eskimos. So, and remember, we need to know about the omega-3 fats, the good fats, the omega-6, the bad fats. I take a supplement of omega-3, about EPA and DHA. DHA is the fast conductor. You want a fast brain, you want fast nerves, take a DHA supplement. That's the good essential fatty acid. Remember, the omega-6 is the one that causes inflammation. Americans running a ratio because of bad diet, 20-to-1 omega-6 over omega-3. Yes, it's sad. It's sad because they're eating the wrong food. And they're eating, farm-raised beef, farm-raised fish, and a lot of omega-6s, a lot of fructose sugar in their diet. Very unhealthy. You want to get it to 1-to-1, 2-to-1, omega-3, omega-6. There is such a ratio available. You can check it in the blood. In Dr. Sinatra, not related to the great singer Frank Sinatra, a cardiologist, I'd say a little more conservative maybe than most. He calls it the new cardiology, the new cardiology. In other words, to concentrate on your blood studies, your diet factors, your exercise factors, and not so much on your fat factors. And he discusses in great detail the myth of cholesterol. He published other books, Reversing Heart Disease Now, a great book to read. He also wrote the Sonata Solution, the Metabolic Cardiology. I think great books, but he discusses in detail the science of energy metabolism of the heart, and I think he's pretty much on it. I don't think everybody would agree with that, but I think it's well researched. He publishes the papers, and Dr. Esseltine, certainly Dr. Dean Ornish published a book 25 years ago, Heart Disease Stoppable, Preventable, Reversible, by eating largely a vegetable type diet, Dr. Esselstyn, the same way, not 100%, but close to it. Kind of interesting. It's a matter of opinion, but I have seen it work. And let's talk about the dirty dozen here that to cause vascular disease. Number one is hyperinsulinemia. In other words, elevated insulin level. How do you get the insulin level up? Certainly to eat a lot of sugary foods is one way to get it up. Actually, fructose doesn't raise it much. On the glycemic index is where they test if you eat or drink some sugar and how quickly your blood sugar rises. It determines where you're on the glycemic index, 0 to 100. White bread would be 100. Actually, fructose is like 20 because it goes, remember, it goes to the liver. It goes to the liver. But diabetics who with elevated insulin level where they can't get the sugar into the cell where your insulin level keeps on going up because you need it for energy. You need it for energy. And because they have insulin resistance, it's not working well, the insulin level in the blood goes sky high. But you may check the blood sugar, your HbA1c, which checks blood sugar over a 3-4 month period. The sugar is attached to a protein. It may be normal. It may be normal. But yet you weigh 220 pounds you're not diagnosed yet because your sugar is normal. You're not a diabetic. But in reality, if you check the insulin level, ask your doctor for your insulin level. 2-hour glucose tolerance test where you eat nothing for 8 hours, then they get a fasting, blood sugar and serum insulin, fasting, 1 hour, 2 hour. And if your insulin level is up and your HbA1c sugar is still normal, you're pre-diabetic. People can be pre-diabetic 10, 15, 20 years. The darn trouble is, if you're not treated in this time, although your sugar is normal, your insulin is causing arthritis. It's causing dementia. One of the biggest reasons of memory loss is elevated insulin. There are many effects from insulin besides bringing your blood sugar down. It's not the only thing that it does. It inflames your blood vessels, it inflames your brain, it inflames your joints. It has an increased rate of cancer attached to it. Yes, yes. So hyperinsulinemia is number one in vascular disease. You know, I've read a lot of these other eating books, and I don't agree with everything, certainly a lot of the books. And in the Atkins diet, I hear some of my other authors say nasty things about it, but I tell you, he has a great chapter in there on vascular disease. He puts diabetes in 5 stages. It's wonderful. Stage 1, hyperinsulinemia. Your blood sugar is still normal, okay? Next one, is insulin resistance, where the insulin doesn't work. It can't push the sugar in the cell, so the level of insulin goes up in the blood. It's destroying your body silently. You are on fire. You're on fire from this insulin and inflammation in the body everywhere. Your 300,000 miles of microcapillaries are on fire. That's why patients came in who have this, who have numbness in their hands, numbness in their feet. They're losing their vision. They're losing their vision. That's retinopathy due to hyperinsulinemia, inflaming the blood vessels. CRP test will be good. That indicates the inflammation. And other tests which I mentioned. So how do I look at that? The golden opportunity. If the insulin level is up and your blood sugar still is normal, that's stage 1 of vascular disease. That's the golden opportunity. So I wrote a book by the name. It's on Amazon right now. It went on last week. 70 pages, easy to read. Very good for laymen, actually. Explains in detail. I think we could save $1 trillion if people were diagnosed very early, because 1 out of 2 people, I think, have diabetes. Yes, where they're either pre-diabetic or diabetic. It's the truth. It's throughout the country. It's starting to occur. Korea, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, bigger than us. Mexico, big time. We could save so much money, so much illness being the biggest thing, and suffering by diagnosing people early. It's the golden opportunity. Look at my website. It's right on there. It's easy to read. You can get it on Amazon. It explains it in great detail. Remember, insulin has to push sugar into the cell for you to produce ATP, which is your energy molecule. Your body will not be alive if it has no ATP. Also, insulin pushes fat into the cells. If you can't get the fat into the cells, it'll be floating in the blood. Another sign of the third stage of vascular disease, and then it's where the blood sugar keeps going up and down, and sometimes they miss it, sometimes they don't. Stage 4 is type 2 diabetes. You're at stage 4 before you ever diagnosed of being type 2 diabetic. And type 2 diabetes has with it a 100% rate of vascular disease. That's the biggest problem. Unannounced heart attacks, strokes, and dementia, increased rate of cancer, neuropathy, retinopathy, lose the kidneys. That is the cause of it, and you're diagnosed at stage 4 when you could have been taking the golden opportunity and be diagnosed stage 1 or before by running the proper blood test. And apple shape, incidentally, is a sign of insulin resistance. The fat is not under the skin. Sad to say, it's in your liver, in your pancreas, in your omentum around your guts, in some globs are even hanging off your heart. I know because I treated back trouble and I saw these CTs, MRIs of the belly all the time. I keep on seeing fat in there. And 25% of Americans walking around today have fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It will be the most common cause of liver transplants in the future. It's not cirrhosis from alcoholism. It's called cryptogenic liver disease. It's hidden. You don't know it. You're walking around and you get a fatty liver. It's hidden. You're inflamed. Your body and you are on fire. I see it because I know so much about nutrition, unfortunately. I didn't always know it. I'm just educating myself, and other tests that we run is the homocysteine level in the blood, which is indicative of inflammation. Homocysteine is involved with the oxidation of cholesterol, and homocysteine is the catalyst that makes it go. It makes it go. So homocysteine blood test is a good one to take. Another one, remember we mentioned LIPA is another good blood test. Remember, it does good and bad things, a good test to get. Fibrinogen level indicating the clotting ability. Sometimes if the fibrinogen level is greatly elevated, you're more likely to develop a clot over a plaque that might rupture more quickly to have a stroke or heart attack. So you want to know that level. Smoking increases the fibrinogen level, incidentally. Ferritin level, the iron level is important too, because that has to do also with blood clotting, oxidative stress. So, and of course, we already mentioned, and it's good to get a triglyceride HDL ratio greater than 41 is a sign that something's going on. And we already mentioned the CRP, but the HDL level, the higher it is, the lower the ratio would be because triglycerides. Triglycerides go up if you eat too much sugar. That's the main cause of it. It's not necessarily eating even saturated fat. And so free radicals we spoke about cause from inflammation. They change your DNA, cause vascular dysfunction, inflammation, increased rate of cancer, increased rate of aging. Actually, HbA1c, the blood sugar test for 3 months, can be used as a test for aging. If you're running a real high level, you're much more likely to have wrinkled skin, like older than you are. See, smoking, of course, we know smokers look 10 to 20 years older than they really are. And it's due to the free radicals and inflammation caused by the chemicals in cigarettes. We already spoke about gum disease and inflammation in the body. And also some chemicals can cause vascular disease. Lead levels and mercury levels can be checked. Some of us are exposed to that. Increased rates of vascular disease and dementia from that. Next, stress. Stress can have a great effect on vascular disease. stress many times is a cause of a heart attack in a person who already was having a problem, but the acute stress reaction, the acute emotional outburst can cause secretion of steroids and factors in the blood that cause vascular spasm of the heart, and there's borderline circulation going on there to begin with, and can be cause of acute heart attack or a stroke. Hans Seeley described chronic stress. I just gave 6 lectures this week about stress. Yes, acute stress, you know, the tiger runs at you, your pupils dilate, you sweat, your bowel shuts down, your bladder shuts down, your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up. But it's over. You're either dead or alive from that tiger. But chronic stress plays on us for months and years. Many people present as diseases from stress: fibromyalgia, irritable bowel, skin rashes, chronic headaches, chronic itching, all sorts of symptoms caused, frankly, by the human mind, from the neuropeptides, hormones that can affect the body. You think the body reacts. Yes. Candace Pert wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion. That's really worth reading about that. So, an emotional stress can cause depression. Depressed people are much more likely to have a heart attack. It's because of chemicals in their blood. Hans Seeley wrote published 1,000 papers on stress, chronic long-term stress in Canada. He was a German like me. And NIH no longer funds the studies of stress on animals because he proved that how you think can have tremendous effects on your body through the nerves, through the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, the stressor, and the autonomic, and through the relaxing hormones that relax you. The vagus nerve, for example, acetylcholine relaxes you, while adrenaline from the sympathetic nervous system stresses you. So how you think is critical. Optimistic people do better than pessimistic people. They have much less cancer. They have much less vascular disease. Monday morning syndrome, a lot more heart attacks on Monday morning because people are thinking of the stress of the day. Of course, high blood pressure, you need to have your blood pressure checked at any age, very important. Causes a lot more damage to the vasculature in your body, and then inflammation occurs and arteriosclerosis develops. So to have your blood pressure checked is careful. Of course, salt increases it. Stress increases it. To learn some for example, when I gave the stress lecture today, I told them about Herb Benson's stress reflex, where you just sit in a chair, close your eye, take 10, 20 real deep breaths, visualize something pleasant, walking down the beach, dancing, whatever, and to quiet your mind, repeat a word, you know, God, 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 or Om, Om, Om. That'll quiet your mind. When I do that, my blood pressure drops 30 points every time. After a hard day in neurosurgery, evening, all night up, for example, I would do that, and the blood pressure dropped like anything. So deep breathing, I would feel the muscles relaxing. Best doing lying down, but you can do it sitting too. Visualize something pleasant, repeat a mantra, mind energy. Think of only the present moment, not the past, not the future, just today, and your blood pressure will come down. You can affect it. I've done it for years, and we talked already about the golden opportunity. Get your test early. As a teenager, 20, 25, 30, start those tests then. Start those tests then. Have your fats checked. Have your sugar checked. Your HbA1c checked. Especially with a strong family history, it's even more important. But it's our diet that causes this problem most of the time. Is that our body has a certain genetic evolutionary information in it, okay, based on millions of years of evolution. Yet the food we're eating has changed tremendously, and food is genetic information. And our bodies, when we eat it, is revolting against it. Like the wheat, for example, the gluten in it, it's been totally changed. Dr. Berlow in 1948 at the Rockefeller Institute in Mexico City to feed the world genetically changed wheat through hybridization and through genetic changes in our bodies. Tremendous change in the gluten content. It's a protein, and our gut is reacting to it, making holes in the gut, and that, because the lymphocytes are right under there, causes inflammation in your body. So food is information. So let's go through some tests that remind you that 90% of arterial vascular disease in your 60,000 of arterioles, your 300,000 miles of microvasculature is silent. Most vascular disease in the beginning, for many years, for decades, is totally silent, but you are destroying your vasculature from eating the wrong food, from not exercising enough, and you're just not. So silent inflammation is really the problem. And remind you again, acute symptoms, you get a chest pain, you get a pain down the arm, jaw pain, to the emergency room you go. Okay, no fooling around about it. It's not something we're going to do tomorrow. Do it today. Get there so they can run some tests on you. So what other tests are important? EKG, we all know that, and echo of the heart is important. Blood test, we spoke about the CRP, the ferritin, the homocysteine. These are all very low density LDL, the triglyceride HDL ratio, the blood sugar, the HbA1c. And sometimes they have to advance pretty quick. With a coronary angiogram, you get acute chest pain, and maybe to save your life. You may be closing off the left coronary artery, which is called the widowmaker. And if that's the problem, you need to make an operation right away. So this is no fooling around here. And largely what we talked about, the new cardiology, we were speaking about prevention before this acute stuff happens. Or after it's happened and you're stabilized and you've been through cardiac rehab and you want to do better, well, exercise and proper nutrition are critical. And Dr. Sanata will talk about some supplements, and I'll bring them up to increase your energy. I think you need to discuss those with your doctor to see if he thinks they're important. But I'll give you Dr. Sanata's opinion on some of those and discuss them with you a little bit. Another good one is CBT test, where they look at the calcium in your heart. Is one of the best tests, Dr. Sanata says, one of the best tests, conservative, no risk, and you should have what's called under 200. They scored over 1,000 is trouble. You need to start working on reversing it or being treated or whatever the situation represents. So a CBT test is a good screening test. But I think it would be questionable if you have no symptoms to go around and have it done. I don't know. Discuss that with your doctor. But in a way, if it shows a lot of calcium and you have no symptoms, that'd be a chance for you to do something about it. Yeah. So, may not be a bad idea. Discuss it with your doctor, and especially the 64-slice CT, CBT test, no risk. Although, you got radiation exposure, there's some risk there. If you had an awful lot of CT scans, there's some risk there, certainly, about exposure. MRA scanning is good. Magnetic resonance angiogram shows the vasculature. And then the blood studies, the CBC, the electrolytes, the chemical profiles, lipid profile, blood sugar, we discussed that already. And Dr. Sanata would recommend that everybody would a Q10 test. A Q10 affects the metabolism energy inside the mitochondria, which are the energy factories in your cell, the mitochondria. Every cell's got about 10,000 of them, little energy factories. He would suggest that another person might not. The carnitine level, which also has to do with energy metabolism. So this is sort of the new cardiology. Like I said, not everybody might agree with that, but it's well explained in Dr. Sanata's books. You might read it. It's well explained. He speaks a great deal of Q10 and L-carnitine and now D-ribose affecting the metabolism of the mitochondria. interesting. Supplements you take, not that big a deal, but I think this you got to clear with your family doctor or your cardiologist about it. Some may never read about it, so you might show them the book. See, what do you think, Doc? And I'm not giving the final answer from that. I'm just saying be open-minded about that. And let's talk about exercise a little bit as being critical. And after a little more time now, it's the wellness director, and I do it. I tell you honestly, I don't expect you to do this, but I do it 2 hours a day. Yeah, 2 hours a day. I always was a tennis player and pretty much of a walker, but I have more time now. But I do it mainly so I can teach the patients. Yeah, so I know, pretty much what I think I can convince somebody to do. I think the easiest thing to do, once it's approved, if you had trouble, if you had no trouble, always check with your doctor. It's okay if I exercise. And if you have had vascular trouble, you need to okay it from your doctor. That's important. But walking, I like. I mean, I take a half-hour walk in the morning, and while I'm walking, I almost practice meditation, relaxation. I used to do some Tai Chi, just watch some tapes, or go to YouTube, Tai Chi, bang, there you got it for free. And it's about arm movements. And when I'm thinking about my arm movements, and it's about circles, and a figure 8, for example, I'm thinking about my hand. I'm not worrying about anything. The other thing is to be mindful. Look at the leaves. I took a walk this morning. I look at the buds on the trees. I look at that beautiful moon. And I happened to walk very early when it was just getting to be light. And you know what? I was listening to the birds anticipating the dawn. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful symphony of music I was listening to. So relaxing. So, and I'm a little bit of a bird watcher. I don't go out and do this officially, but I carry some field glasses sometimes. If I spot a great looking bird, I might concentrate on that. That's meditation. Saw a beautiful bluebird the other day. I mean, gorgeous, size of a pigeon. Beautiful thing, and he just, for me, thank you, God, sat there and I watched him for a couple of minutes. I mean, that's meditation, okay? And you'll catch me, if you follow me, you'll catch me talking to the animals sometimes too. Again, that's relaxing. That's relaxing. So, and then I work out at Planet Fitness, and I belong to some other places too, but I like it because I find the very ordinary person there. You go to some other places where nothing but people that go there that are healthy to begin with. You know what I'm talking about to begin with. But the gentleman who came up with Planet Fitness, I met him myself that I didn't think of it. He's got 5 million members in the nation, 3 places in the city, 30,000 members. Oh my God. We have to thank this individual. $10 a month, God. And I go there an hour every day, 20 minutes on the treadmill. But I do intermittent training. They say intermittent training is more helpful. And I'll tell you how it works. Like I'll be on the treadmill for, say, 15 minutes, okay? I go fast for a minute, say at 4.5 miles, and then I go down to 3.5 or 3 for a minute, back and forth, back and forth. So my heart rate goes up and down, and slowly over time I'm raising. So what am I doing? Improving my VO2 max, my oxygen consumption in my heart is improving. The MET values, MET, when they do a treadmill, that's what they measure indirectly, okay? Then I go onto the elliptical, do the same darn thing, 1 minute or half a minute, fast, slow, and then I go on the bike, do the same darn thing, fast, slow, fast. So that's called intermittent training. That's better than running a triathlon, yeah. Very healthy. I highly recommend that if your doctor approves it, okay? I do that every day, and then at night I play tennis like I'm going to tonight with my friend Dr. Crawford. I have for many years. But that's intermittent too. I'm running and playing, but I think this training and I lift some weights doing this, not real heavy stuff, but 15, 20 pounds back and forth 20, 30 times to strengthen my upper body. Oh yeah, and I want to recommend very highly to you to strengthen your core. You can get them off YouTube. I have about 10, 20 of those memorized, core exercises. Very important. because it holds you up. You're much more likely to have a strong back, and I recommend it especially as we get a day older, because people drop out their bladder. They start putting things on their pants and things. It can be from either one of those down there. And if you strengthen your core, that won't happen. It goes away. Personal experience with that. I highly recommend it. Core exercises. I do 10 minutes of it. You're at home. I do it at Planet Fitness. I think you can learn it off of YouTube. I highly recommend that, especially if you get a backache. This core never gets exercised by any of us enough. Fructose is our evil twin. We need to watch the sugar and fructose content as a cause of vascular disease. Dr. Richard Johnson, Dr. Lustig, Dr. Furman, Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Bernard, Dr. Esseltine, they're all in agreement. The only thing Esseltine doesn't recommend to eat a few nuts for a snack, which I think most of us, Dr. Furman would disagree with that. That's okay to use those as a snack. But in general, they're all, matter of fact, Dr. Furman just came out with a book, my friend, called End of Dieting is the name of the book. Just came out. It's worth reading. He wrote End of Diabetes. My name's on the back cover of that one. So to show you how we are working with wellness, we're trying to get people well so they don't need all these other things. But if you need them, we certainly have the best available at our hospital. So it's important for you to eat properly. That's the biggest thing in exercise. So what I recommend, what do I recommend? I tell people eat seafood. Food I see, I eat. No, believe me, even after all these years of knowing what I know, sugar still does tempt me. Although I'm 138 pounds, and 9 days I'm celebrating my 39th birthday of my 39th birthday. and my dad had a deli in New York. You think I always knew what I eat right? I'm not being critical. This is a no judgment zone. I'm just trying to, if you want to avoid type 2 diabetes, if you want to avoid vascular disease, if you want to reduce the rate of dementia, the rate of cancer, the rate of inflammation in your body, eating correctly is the way. So if I were to take a food plate, how would I do that? I would half vegetables, another quarter vegetables with potatoes, for example, and 1/4 meat. I would like to also mention, join us in other lectures, and let us put you on our mailing list. You know, send us an email at info@cashmanmindbody.com, and on that we'll send an email, because I give other lectures once a month at the Lutheran Hospital, all of something about health. My next one is actually on memory loss, dementia, how to prevent it, how to improve your memory, how to prevent it. That's Monday night, 7 o'clock, Lutheran Hospital. I give those once a month. Let's get on your mailing list, and you can decide when they're coming out. But we have a nice group of people that are interested in wellness. Join us in this. I'm also part of the Daniel Plan. I'm teaching in parts of the city, in the churches, how to bring faith, food, fitness, focus, and friends into the community to improve our health. Join us. I'd love for you to join us. We're kicking off May the 10th at the public library in this. And send me a book. I'll read it, and I'll meet you at Starbucks. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. Email me, write me, send me a book. Someone gave to me, as a matter of fact, the last lecture wanted me to read a book, and I'm going to meet at Starbucks in a month. I love that sort of thing. I love that sort of thing. We love you all. Thank you very much for watching.